While romantic comedies flourished from the late 1990s to the early 2010s, they have largely been relegated to bargain bins and the twin industrial processors of straight-to-TV movies, Hallmark and Lifetime. For whatever strengths modern cinema has, it's become rather sterile in the areas of romance and love. The movie we're talking about today pretends to be a rom-com, but really it resembles a boner comedy with the roles reversed. There's no love to be found here. Meet Maddie, our female protagonist. She's a bartender and part-time Uber driver, and she has a problem. She has a lien on her house and her car's been towed, which means her Uber income has disappeared overnight. One day, she finds a strange Craigslist ad that offers a trade. The parents of an introverted high schooler want a woman to date him temporarily before he jets off to Princeton, and in exchange, she'd get a Buick Regal. This sounds excellent to Maddie, who sees sex and relationships as a means to an end.
I've had sex with a guy who wants to get out of playing Settlers of Catan.
And so she begins her courtship of our male protagonist, Percy, with the end goal of having sex with him. She soon finds out that he isn't much like the men she's used to. She could throw herself at him and he'd be completely obtuse to her advances. He's shy, meek, nerdy, and doesn't at all share her views on relationships and sex. He doesn't put out that easy, and he's determined to get to know her before they do the deed. The fun and game section of the plot has the pair getting to know one another while Maddie desperately tries to fulfill her side of the bargain with Percy's parents.
Should have this Buick by now, but this kid is unfuckable.
They find out that neither has been to prom, so they attempt to recreate the experience by going out to a fancy dinner. On the way back, Percy tells her he loves her, which leads to the pair falling out. Percy tells his parents that he doesn't want to go to Princeton. He wants to stay in Montauk with Maddie, and they panic. They call Maddie up in a hurry and tell her that the Buick Regal is hers if she can convince Percy to go to Princeton. He overhears this conversation and decides to wreck the Buick Regal in revenge. He doesn't manage to wreck the car, but he does break up the full relationship he had with Maddie. Maddie, now in possession of the damaged yet still functional car, Ubers her way into paying off the lien on her house. She reflects on the situation with Percy and decides to try and amend her mistakes. She confronts him at a Princeton mixer and apologizes, and after a silly action sequence in his car, he ends up forgiving her. Maddie decides that her house wasn't what she wanted all along. She wanted happiness. She sells her house to her friends, Jim and Sarah, for a lowball price and then moves to California. She drives Percy to Princeton on her way despite his protests. There are a lot of things to like about No Hard Feelings. The film shows a meeting of two people that might as well have been from different planets. The older millennial party girl who has an outgoing, assertive personality and a blasé attitude to sex, and the shy, meek, socially awkward, but gifted introvert who has a more romanticized view of sex. Over time, each manages to cause a change in the worldview of the other. Two scenes demonstrate this. After a falling out with Maddie, Percy decides to go to a party and sleep with his classmate. Maddie is overcome with jealousy at the prospect and attempts to stop him. This goes horribly wrong and she's about to be ejected by the owner of the house, but then Percy steps up to defend her. He tries to punch the guy and misses, but the scene shows us that Percy is no longer too meek to fight for the people he cares about. Maddie's views on sex changes over the course of the film as well. In the beginning, she considers sex as this menial thing, something that she can use for convenience and entertainment. She's the kind of girl that would have sex in the back of a police cruiser to get out of a speeding ticket. You get the picture. But by the end of the film, when she brings a guy home from the bar, she feels the need to get to know him, to look for something deeper than just meaningless sex.
I'm trying to get to know you.
I'm sorry.
The film establishes the generational divide rather well. Maddie is an older millennial whose opinions on phones, technology, and human interaction differs wildly from Percy, and by extension Gen Z as well. This is best shown in the party scene, where Maddie tries to stop Percy from having sex with his classmate. She opens a bunch of rooms, only to find that nobody is having sex. They're all on their phones, one even has a VR headset on. She takes a homophobic dig at a couple of Zoomers and they immediately take their phones out to record her for her faux pas, a joke that would have been okay when she was in high school, but clearly isn't anymore. The differences don't just stop there though. Unlike in Maddie's youth, the parents have agreed to host this party in their house, alcohol and all. Maddie cuts this extremely sorry figure in this house of horrors, lost and bewildered in this generational culture shock. The best part of No Hard Feelings is the way Maddie's attitude changes about the whole situation as the film progresses. She first sees Percy as a means to an end, but grows to care for him as a person. As she develops this new perspective and he develops feelings for her, she begins to realize what an awful thing she's doing to him. This comes to a head in a scene where Percy plays a rendition of Man Eater by Hall & Oates. The song is about a woman who's only with a man for his money. This scene is the emotional breaking point of the film. It shows the lengths that Percy would go to because he's learned to play the song on the piano, just because she's mentioned it once. When he's playing the chorus, the camera pans over to Maddie, her face falling and tears welling up in her eyes. It's about as subtle as a hammer to the dome, but the other half of the picture brings it home for me. Percy's relationship with the song is quite different to that of Maddie's. He misunderstands the lyrics. He thinks it's about a female monster that would quite literally eat a man. And even though he's had nightmares about it as a kid, he learns to play the song just because Maddie said she liked it. The juxtaposition of the naive, earnest kid who's totally out of his depth and the cynical, selfish man-eater who has the full context of what's going on is great. This is definitely the best scene of the film. This is a great time to segue into my criticisms of No Hard Feelings, beginning with the man-eater scene. Yes, it's great that they used a poignant song to show the differences in the way Percy and Maddie approach their relationship. Sure, that's fine, but it has no impact on the plot whatsoever. She has realized that what she's doing is wrong, maybe even evil. Despite this, her behavior doesn't change at all.
If there's something I don't know, just tell me.
No.
She's still open to having sex with Percy, and she doesn't come clean with him. She's still after that Buick Regal. Sure, there are people in real life that know what they're doing is wrong but continue to do it anyway. We call those sociopaths, but Maddie isn't portrayed as one, so it doesn't track. Let's look at how the two protagonists are handled. Maddie is complex. Her behavior follows from her issues in a reasonable way. She was born out of wedlock to a man who was cheating on his wife, a man who wanted absolutely nothing to do with her. Her house was given to Maddie and her mum to shut them up and make them go away. As a result of this, she is very promiscuous, trying to attract the male attention she couldn't get from her father. She routinely ghosts the men she's with, so she can reject those men before they have a chance to reject her, like her dad did. Her behavior and worldview is shaped by the father-shaped void in her soul. But in the end, she changes her approach to sex and relationships because she dates a doe-eyed young lad who looks at her problems with eyes unclouded by her kind of trauma. Because of Percy, she realizes that she's been attached to things that don't make her happy, that her perspective was wrong, and that she should seek happiness instead.
I won't be here. I sold the house. I'm moving to California.
Percy, on the other hand, isn't handled that well. His character is constructed to be this introverted, nerdy kid who doesn't have friends and has never had a girlfriend. Except his social life isn't as dismal as the film claims it to be. He has a part-time job at an animal shelter where he has a very close friend. So close, in fact, that he helps Percy commit a crime later in the film.
It's very simple. She broke your heart, you break the car since that's all she cares about.
Percy also has a close relationship with his old nanny, who's incredibly protective of him.
There are a lot of powerful families out here. So if you hurt him, I'll hurt you.
So while Percy isn't quite the social butterfly, he's doing just fine on the friendship front. Onto the romance. Yes, it's true that Percy has never had a girlfriend, but this isn't because he's short on charm. He's apparently capable of getting a female classmate into bed in fairly short order. Right off the bat, Percy as a character is a little muddled. While Maddie's arc comes to a mostly satisfying conclusion, Percy's arc ends only in dejection and, worse still, impotence. He tries having sex with his classmate, but he's too drunk to do it. He tries having sex with Maddie, but he prematurely ejaculates between her thighs. He finds out about his parents' scheme and attempts to destroy the Buick Regal, but it still works well enough. He succeeds in absolutely nothing he sets out to do. Were I a betting man, I'd wager the writers have some disdain for Percy as a character. Poor kid, he deserves so much better.
She was just like every other thing in my life. Planned by my parents.
There is an attempt at circular storytelling, but it doesn't quite work. Maddie drives with Percy holding on for dear life on the hood of her car, and the scene is mirrored at the end with the roles reversed. Unfortunately, the context of the scenes are not comparable. Percy believes his phone is in Maddie's car as she accelerates. She has something of his, and he's well within his rights to demand its return. When the roles are reversed, Maddie is asking him for forgiveness for her betrayal. She isn't owed forgiveness, she has absolutely no right to demand it. Superficially, it looks like circular storytelling, sure, but the scenes aren't comparable in the least. No Hard Feelings is a bit of a puzzle. On the surface, it looks like a rom-com, but you peel back a few layers and you realize it's actually a boner comedy. Peel back a few more layers and it looks like a character study of two polar opposite protagonists. The film stumbles and even falls sometimes, but it's entertaining and funny while still putting its protagonists through meaningful character development. I'd hesitate to call it a great film or even a good film, but I'd recommend you check it out anyway, because it deals with some interesting subject matter. And that's all I've got for you today, lads. Have a good day.